कार्तिक गिरिधारी श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जाय। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मद शिल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जाय। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मद शिल भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नितिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मद शिल भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज Nitil Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupara Shatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupara Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Maha-Bhagavat Srila Gokshadash Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shard Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जाय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जाय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि वो। Did anybody mention anything yesterday? Is this moving background annoying? Because I could just make it something is it distracting? Let me know. Alright, let's do Mangalacharan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityang dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedu stang sarva bhuta hridaya munimanatosmi narayanam namaskrityam narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunuti Suritsatam Nashta Prayashvavadreshu Nitang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvang Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptashtakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Ganga Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Rup Manjari Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Gargaraji, Dandavat Pranams, Madhavi Didi, Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Mantra Murti Mataji. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. All right, so, okay, so Raseshwari Mataji didn't even notice it, huh? And Indira Mataji, it's fine with you? Okay. I think it was fine until you mentioned it. Now it's distracting. That's what everybody's saying. All right. Well, I don't even see it. I don't even know. I'm not even aware of the background really. Because I can't see it when I'm doing a screen share. So this is for you guys. There's all these different options here. You can choose which one you like. That's a horrible one. And yeah, it could just be something really plain and boring also. What's this one like? I think that one's really neutral. All right, let's do that then. Whoa, what's that one? Anyways, okay, sorry guys, I'm wasting time. That one. Oh, that's not good. Let's do that one. All right, let's, what am I doing? All right. So, let's do a recap. Oh, shoot. Sorry guys, 1 second. Plain and boring is good. Okay, Raseshwari Mataji, I'm doing plain and boring. All right, so Narad Muni, he further describes the behavior of such a saintly person, about a sannyasi, somebody, who has all these qualities of a sannyasi, by narrating a conversation that happens between Prahlad Maharaj and an Avadut Brahman. So Prahlad Maharaj meets a Brahman and inquires for him. The sages recite a historical example on this. Once, on Sahya mountain, Prahlad Maharaj met a person lying on the ground, covered with dust, feeding himself like a python. By his activities, bodily features, words, people could not understand whether he was some person they knew. Prahlad, an advanced devotee, duly worshipped the saintly person, touching his feet with his head. He then inquired from him very submissively as follows. Prahlad said, "You do not work to earn your livelihood, but you have a stout body, like that of a materialistic enjoyer. You have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? You appear learned and intelligent, yet you lie down inactive, looking at people doing actions with disgust." Captivated by Prahlad's sweet words, the saintly person replied with a smile, "O best of demons, you are respected by advanced men. You are aware of the different stages of life by your inner spiritual vision. You can see a man's character and the results of his actions. Because of your pure devotion to Bhagavan Narayan, he is predominant in your heart. He always drives away ignorance, as the sun drives away the darkness of the universe. Although you know everything, you ask some questions. I shall answer you. Though I have taken a vow of silence, I shall break it. And I shall answer you according to what I have heard from authorities. It has not been concocted. I'm doing this for my self-purification." The Brahman then describes the futility of material happiness. Okay, I don't want to spend too long on this. I'm just going to skip some parts. Okay, so the conditioned soul forgets his self-interest, his eternal relationship with Krishna, due to bodily identification. Attracted by varieties of the material world, he suffers. As Krishna is always happy, the living entities who are his parts and parcels are also happy by nature. But because of being put within this material world and forgetting their eternal relationship with Krishna, they suffer. Just as a deer cannot see the water within a covered well, but runs after a mirage, the conditioned soul does not see this within oneself, but runs for it elsewhere. But because the various material bodies are under the control of material nature, all of one's plans are ultimately baffled. Note, when one understands one's real identity as a spiritual being, he can understand Krishna, the supreme spiritual being, and the real happiness exchanged between Krishna and oneself. For a person not free from threefold miseries, who can suddenly die, what is the use of attaining objects of enjoyment with great difficulty? A rich man who is the victim of the senses is greedy to accumulate wealth, but he suffers from insomnia due to fear of government's laws, thieves, enemies, family members, animals, beggars, the time factor, and even his own self. An intelligent person should give up desire for prestige and money, which is the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, unnecessary labor, and so on. The two gurus of the Brahman. The bee and the python are two excellent gurus who give us instructions on satisfaction and renunciation. The bee teaches detachment from material desires and accumulating money. Just as the honey accumulated by a bee is taken away by force, anyone can kill a person who owns money and take it away. The python teaches satisfaction and not desiring to possess more, but to take whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am unagitated like a python. Lifestyle of the Avadut Brahman. I eat whatever is easily available. Small quantity, great quantity, palatable food, stale food, offered with respect or given neglectfully, during the day or night, and so on. I wear whatever is available according to my destiny, linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin. I lie down wherever possible, on earth, on leaves, grass, or stone, on a pile of ashes, or in a palace. Note, the Brahman's description here indicates different types of births. For one lies down according to one's body. For example, an animal lies down on the ground. A king or a rich man sleeps in huge palaces. Sometimes I bathe nicely, decorate with sandalwood pulp, fine garments, garlands, and ornaments, and travel like a king on an elephant, a chariot, or a horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked, like a hunted person, giving up the material body in self-realization. Avoiding false discrimination and being a well-wisher. I do not praise or criticize people who have different mentalities. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the Supersoul. Note, good and bad in this world have no meaning, because if one is good, he may be elevated to higher planets, and if one is bad, he may be degraded to the lower planets. But this is not the goal of life. Therefore, a saintly person does not discriminate between that which is supposedly good and supposedly bad. Rather, he desires for everyone to be happy in Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of life. Then fighting false discrimination. Okay, so discrimination should be offered into consciousness, which should be offered into the mind, which is the root of all acceptance and rejection, which should be offered into false ego, which should be offered into the material energy, Maya. A thoughtful person should retire from all illusory material activities, being situated in self-realization. I have described my history of self-realization to you, O Prasad, because you are a self-realized soul and a devotee. You do not care for public opinion or so-called scriptures. Prahlad Maharaj understood the occupational duties of a Paramahamsa. Prahlad duly worshipped the saint and departed with his permission. Alright, so now we're reading the two last chapters of the 7th canto, which are both on the gṛhastha ashram. So first we're reading, this chapter 14, Ideal Family Life. Today we're going to be reading the duties of a gṛhastha. A gṛhastha should offer the results of one's work to Krishna and be detached, devoted, neutral, simple, responsible, and maintain others as well. Okay, so let's begin. This chapter describes the occupational duties of the householder according to the time, the country, and the performer. When Yudhishthira Maharaj became very much inquisitive about the occupational duties for the householder, Narad Muni advised him that a gṛhastha's first duty is to be fully dependent on Vasudeva, Krishna, and to try to satisfy him in all respects by executing one's prescribed devotional service. This devotional service will depend on the instructions of authorities and the association of devotees who are actually engaged in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is Shravanam, or hearing. One must first hear from the mouths of realized souls. In this way, the gṛhastha's attraction to his wife and children will gradually be reduced. As for the maintenance of his family, a gṛhastha, while earning what he requires for his living, must be very conscientious and must not undergo extraordinary endeavor simply to accumulate money and unnecessarily increase in material comforts. Although a gṛhastha should externally be very active in earning his livelihood, he should internally be situated as a full self-realized person without attachment for material gains. His dealings with family members or friends should be performed simply to fulfill their purpose. One should not be extravagantly engaged in this way. Instructions from family members and society should be accepted superficially, but in essence, the gṛhastha should be engaged in occupational duties advised by the spiritual master and Shastra. Specifically, a gṛhastha should engage in agricultural activities to earn money. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 18:44, Krishi go raksha vanijyam, agriculture, cow protection, and trade are the special duties of gṛhasthas. If by chance, or by the grace of the Lord, more money comes, it should be properly engaged for the Krishna consciousness movement. One should not be eager to earn more money simply for sensual pleasure. A gṛhastha should always remember that one who is endeavoring to accumulate more money than necessary is to be considered a thief and is punishable by the laws of nature. A gṛhastha should be very much affectionate toward lower animals, birds, and bees, treating them exactly like his own children. A gṛhastha should not indulge in killing animals or birds for sense gratification. He should provide the necessities of life even to the dogs and the lowest creatures, and should not exploit others for sense gratification. Factually, according to the instructions of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, every gṛhastha is a great communist who provides the means of living for everyone. Whatever a gṛhastha may possess, he should equally distribute to all living entities without discrimination. The best process is to distribute Prasad. A gṛhastha should not be very much attached to his wife. He should engage even his own wife in serving a guest with all attention. Whatever money a gṛhastha accumulates by the grace of God, he should spend in 5 activities, namely, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, receiving Vaishnavas and saintly persons, distributing prasad to the general public and to all living entities, offering prasad to his forefathers, and also offering prasad to his own self. Gṛhastha should always be ready to worship everyone as mentioned above. The gṛhastha should not eat anything not offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 3:13, Yagya Shishtashina Santo Muchyante Sarvakil Vishai. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food that is offered first for sacrifice. The gṛhastha should also visit the holy places of pilgrimage mentioned in the Puranas. In this way, he should fully engage in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the benefit of his family, his society, his country, and humanity at large. Shri Yudhishthira Vacha gṛhastha etang padavim vidhinayena chanjasa ya deva rishe bruhi madrisha grihamurdadhi. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from Narad Muni, O my lord, O great sage, kindly explain how we are staying at home without knowledge of the goal of life. Let me reread that. O my lord, O great sage, kindly explain how we, who are staying at home without knowledge of the goal of life, may also easily attain liberation according to the instructions of the Vedas. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the previous chapters, the great sage Narad has explained how a brahmachari, a vanaprastha, and a sannyasi should act. He first explained the dealings of a brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi, because these three ashrams, or statuses of life, are extremely important for fulfillment of the goal of life. One should note that in the brahmachari ashram, vanaprastha ashram, and sannyasa ashram, there is no scope for sex life, whereas sex is allowed in gṛhastha life under regulations. Narad Muni therefore first described brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyas, because he wanted to stress that sex is not at all necessary, although one who absolutely requires it is allowed to enter gṛhastha life, or householder life, which is also regulated by the Shastras and Guru. Yudhishthira Maharaj could understand all this. Therefore, as a gṛhastha, he presented himself as griha muda dhi, one who is completely ignorant of the goal of life. A person who remains a householder in family life is certainly ignorant of life's goal. He is not very much advanced in intelligence. As soon as possible, one should give up his so-called comfortable life at home and prepare to undergo austerity, or tapasya. Tapo divyam putraka. According to the instructions given by Rishabhdev to his sons, we should not create a so-called comfortable situation, but must prepare to undergo austerity. This is how a human being should actually live to fulfill life's ultimate goal. Shri Narad Uvacha Vavastito Rajan Kriya Kurvam Yatochita Vasudevarpanam Shakshad Upasita Mahamunin. Narad Muni replied, "My dear king, those who stay at home as householders must act to earn their livelihood, and instead of trying to enjoy the results of their work themselves, they should offer these results to Krishna, Vasudeva. How to satisfy Vasudeva in this life can be perfectly understood through the association of great devotees of the Lord." Purport. The format for gṛhastha life should be dedication to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 6.1 it is said, "Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiya sa sannyasi chayogi cha na niragnir na chakriya." One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. Whether one acts as a brahmachari, gṛhastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi, he must act only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. This should be the principle for everyone's life. Narad Muni has already described the principles of life for a brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi, and now he is describing how a gṛhastha should live. The basic principle is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The science of satisfying the Supreme Lord can be learned as described here, Shakshad Upasita Mahamunin. The word Mahamunin refers to great saintly persons or devotees. Saintly persons are generally known as munis, or thoughtful philosophers concerned with transcendental subject matters. And Mahamunin refers to those who have not only thoroughly studied the goal of life, but who are actually engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. These persons are known as devotees. Unless one associates with devotees, one cannot learn the science of Vasudevarpana, or dedicating one's life to Vasudeva, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In India, the principles of this science were followed strictly. Even 50 years ago, I saw that in the villages of Bengal and the suburbs of Kolkata, people engaged in hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam daily when all their activities ended, or at least in the evening before going to bed. Everyone would hear the Bhagavatam. Bhagavat classes were held in every village, and thus people had the advantage of hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which describes everything about the aim of life, liberation or salvation. This will be clearly explained in the next verses. There's a line missing. 1 second, let me take it off. Oh, actually, no, there isn't a line. Śrīmad Bhagavatam. Oh, let me just. Yeah, that's okay. Śrīmad Bhagavato Bhakshnam Avatara Katamritam Shraddhano Yata Kalam upashanta janavrita. Satsangach chanakaya sangam atmajayatmajadishu vimuchen muchamaneshu swayam swapnavad uttita. A gṛhastha must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Lord and his incarnations, as these activities are described in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and other Puranas. Thus, one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement has been established to give gṛhasthas all over the world an opportunity to hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita specifically. The process, as described in many ways, is one of hearing and chanting, Shrinvatam Swat Katha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. Everyone, especially the gṛhasthas, who are mudadi, ignorant about the goal of life, should be given opportunities to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing, by attending lectures in the different centers of the Krishna consciousness movement, where topics of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are being discussed, they will be purified of their sinful inclination for constant indulgence in illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling, which have all become prominent in modern days. Thus they can be raised to the statuses of light. Punya Shravana Kirtana, simply by joining the kirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, one must be purified, especially if he also takes Prasad. This is all going on in the Krishna consciousness. Another specific description here is Shrinvan Bhagavato Bhikshnam Avatara Katamritam. It is not that because one has once finished Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. The word abhikshnam is very important. We should hear again and again. There is no question of stopping. Even if one has read these topics many times, he should go on reading again and again, because Bhagavad Katha, the words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna's devotees about Krishna, are amritam. They are nectar. The more one drinks this amritam, the more he advances in his eternal life. The human form of life is meant for liberation, but unfortunately, due to the influence of Kali Yuga, every day the gṛhasthas are working hard like asses. Early in the morning they rise and travel even away to earn bread. Especially in the Western countries, I have seen that people awaken at 5 o'clock to go to offices and factories to earn their livelihood. People in Kolkata and Bombay also do this every day. They work very hard in the off factory, and again, they spend 3 or 4 hours in transportation returning home. Then they retire at 10 o'clock, and again, rise early in the morning to go to their offices and factories. This kind of hard labor is described in the Shastras as the life of pigs and stool eaters. Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloke kashtan kaman arhate vir bhujam ye. Of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 551. One must find some time for hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This is Vedic culture. One should work 8 hours at the most to earn his livelihood, and either in the afternoon or in the evening, a householder should associate with devotees to hear about the incarnations of Krishna and his activities, and thus be gradually liberated from the clutches of Maya. However, instead of finding time to hear about Krishna, the householders, after working hard in offices and factories, find time to go to a restaurant or a club, where instead of hearing about Krishna and his activities, they are very much pleased to hear about the political activities of demons and non-devotees, and to enjoy sex, wine, women, and meat, and in this way waste their time. This is not gṛhastha life, but demoniac life. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, with its centers all over the world, gives such fallen and condemned persons an opportunity to hear about Krishna. In a dream, we form a society of friendship and love, and when we awaken, we see that it has ceased to exist. Similarly, one's gross society, family, and love are also a dream, and this dream will be over as soon as one dies. Therefore, whether one is dreaming in a subtle way or a gross way, these dreams are all false and temporary. One's real business is to understand one is soul. I think it says Aham Brahmasmi. Let me see if yeah. For some reason, every time it says Aham Brahmasmi, it disappears from here. Pretty sure it's Aham Brahmasmi because that's happened many times before. So, one's real business is to understand that one is soul, Aham Brahmasmi, and that his activities should therefore be different. Then one can be happy. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mar bhaktin labate param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. That's Bhagavad Gita 1854. One who is engaged in devotional service can very easily be liberated from the dream of materialistic life. Yavad artam upasino dehe gehe cha pandita virakto raktavat tatra nriloke naratang nyaset. While working to earn his livelihood as much as necessary to maintain body and soul together, one who is actually learned should live in human society unattached to family affairs, although externally appearing very much attached. So internally, one is unattached to family affairs, but externally, one appears to be very much attached. We keep it hidden. Purport. This is the picture of ideal family life. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy about the goal of life, Ramananda Rai described it in different ways according to the recommendations of the revealed scriptures. And finally, Sri Ramananda Rai explains that one may stay in his own position, whether as a Brahman, a Shudra, or sannyasi, or whatever, but one must try to inquire about life's goal, atato brahmajigyasa. This is the proper utilization of the human form of life. When one misuses the gift of the human form by unnecessarily indulging in the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and does not try to get out of the clutches of Maya, which subjects one to repeated birth, death, old age, and disease, one is again punished by being forced to descend into the lower species and undergo evolution according to the laws of nature. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Being completely under the grip of material nature, the living entity must evolve again from the lower species to the higher species, until he at last returns to human life and gets the chance to be freed from the material clutches. A wise man, however, learns from the Shastras and Guru that we living entities are all eternal, but are put into troublesome conditions because of associating with different modes under the laws of material nature. He therefore concludes that in the human form of life, he should not endeavor for unnecessary necessities, but should live a very simple life, just maintaining body and soul together. Certainly, one requires some means of livelihood, and according to one's varna and ashram, this means of livelihood is prescribed in the Shastras. One is satisfied with this. Therefore, instead of hankering for more and more money, a sincere devotee of the Lord tries to invent some ways to earn his livelihood, and when he does so, Krishna helps him. Earning one's livelihood, therefore, is not a problem. The real problem is how to get free from the bondage of birth, death, and old age. Attaining this freedom and not inventing unnecessary necessities is the basic Vedic civilization. One should be satisfied with whatever means of life comes automatically. The modern materialistic civilization is just the opposite of ideal civilization. Every day, the so-called leaders of modern society invent something contributing to a cumbersome way of life that implicates people more and more in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Gyataya pitaro putra bhratara suhrido pare yadvadanti yadichanti chanumodeta nirmama. An intelligent man in human society should make his own program of activities very simple. If there are suggestions from his friends, children, parents, brothers, or anyone else, he should externally agree, saying, "Yes, this is all right." But internally, he is very determined not to create a cumbersome life in which the purpose of life will not be fulfilled. That's really interesting. Okay. Devyam bhomam Devyam bhomam chantariksham vittam achyuta nirmitam tat sarvam upayunjana etat kuryat sato buddha. The natural products created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead should be utilized to maintain the bodies and souls of all living entities. The necessities of life are of three types: those produced from the sky, from rainfall, from the earth, from the mines, the seas, or the fields, and from the atmosphere, that which is obtained suddenly and unexpectedly. Purport. We living entities in different forms are all children of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita 14.4. Sarva yonishu konteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma maharyonir aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the Father of all living entities in different species and forms. One who is intelligent can see that all living entities in the 8,400,000 bodily forms are part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and are his sons. Everything within the material world and spiritual worlds is the property of the Supreme Lord. Isha vasyam idam sarvam. And therefore, everything has a relationship with him. Srila Rupa Goswami says in this regard, prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastuna mamukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgukatyate. One who rejects anything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is incomplete in his renunciation. It's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.256. Although Mayavad philosophers say that the material creation is false, actually it is not false. It is factual. But the idea that everything belongs to human society is false. Everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for everything is created by him. All living entities, being the Lord's sons, his eternal parts and parcels, have the rights to use their father's property by nature's arrangement. As stated in the Upanishads, Tena taktena bhunjita ma gṛhastha dhanam. Everyone should be satisfied with the things allotted to him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one should encroach upon another's rights or property. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Anar bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhava yagyar bhavanti parjanyo yagya karma samurbhava. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. That's Bhagavad Gita 3.14. When food grains are sufficiently produced, both animals and human beings can be nourished without difficulty for their maintenance. This is nature's arrangement. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. Everyone is acting under the influence of material nature, and only fools think they can improve on what God has created. The householders are specifically responsible for seeing that the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are maintained, without fighting between men, communities, societies, or nations. Human society should properly utilize the gifts of God, especially the food grains that grow because of rain falling from the sky. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Yagyad bhavati parjanyad, that's from Bhagavad Gita 3.14. So that rainfall will be regulated, humanity should perform yagyas, sacrifices. Yagyas were previously performed with offerings of oblations of ghee and food grains. But in this age, of course, this is no longer possible, for the production of food grains has diminished because of the sinful life of human society. However, people should take to Krishna consciousness and chant the Hare Krishna mantra as recommended in the Shastras. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti hi Sumedasa. If people throughout the world take to the Krishna consciousness movement and chant the easy sound vibration of the transcendental name and fame of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there will be no scarcity of rainfall. Consequently, food grains, fruits, and flowers will be properly produced, and all the necessities of life will be easily obtained. Grihasthas, or householders, should take the responsibility for organizing such natural production. It is therefore said, Taseva hito pratet. An intelligent person should try to spread Krishna consciousness through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, and all the necessities of life will automatically follow. Yavad briyeta jataram tavad svatvam hidehinam adhikam yo bhimanyeta sastena dandamarhati. One may claim proprietorship to as much wealth as required to maintain body and soul together. But one who desires proprietorship over more than that, that must be considered a thief, and he deserves to be punished by the laws of nature. Sorry, let me reread that. One may claim proprietorship to as much wealth as required to maintain body and soul together, but one who desires proprietorship over more than that must be considered a thief, and he deserves to be punished by the laws of nature. Purport. By God's favor, we sometimes get large quantities of food grains, or suddenly receive some contribution or unexpected profits in business. In this way, we may get more money than needed. So how should that be spent? There is no need to accumulate money in the bank merely to increase one's bank balance. Such a mentality is described in Bhagavad Gita 16:13 as asurik, or demoniac. Idam adya maya labdham imam prapsye manoratham idam asti dam api me bhavishyati punardhanam. The person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. The asura is concerned with how much wealth he has in the bank today and how it will increase tomorrow. But unrestrained accumulation of wealth is not permitted either by the Shastras or, in the modern age, by the government. Actually, if one has more than one requires for his necessities, the extra should be spent for Krishna. According to the Vedic civilization, it should all be given to the Krishna movement as ordered by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9:27. Yat kuroshi yarashnashi yajuhasiyat yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurushva mararpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. Grihasthas should spend extra money only for the Krishna consciousness movement. The Grihasthas should give contributions for constructing temples of the Supreme Lord and for preaching of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, or Krishna consciousness, all over the world. Shunvam Bhagavato Bhikshnam Avatara Katamritam. In the Shastras, the Puranas, and other Vedic literatures, there are so many narrations describing the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everyone should hear them again and again. For example, even if we read the entire Bhagavad Gita every day, all 18 chapters, in each reading we shall find a new explanation. That is the nature of transcendental literature. The Krishna consciousness movement, therefore, affords one an opportunity to spend his extra earnings for the benefit of all human society by expanding Krishna consciousness. In India especially, we see hundreds and thousands of temples that were constructed by all the wealthy men of society who did not want to be called thieves and be punished. This verse is very important. As stated here, one who accumulates more money than needed is a thief, and by the laws of nature, he will be punished. One who acquires more money than necessary becomes desirous of enjoying material comforts more and more. Materialists are inventing so many artificial necessities, and those who have money, being allured by such artificial necessities, try to accumulate money to possess more and more. this is the idea of modern economic development. Everyone is engaged in earning money, and the money is kept in the bank, which then offers money to the public. In this cycle of activities, everyone is engaged in getting more and more money, and therefore the ideal goal of human life is being lost. Concisely, it may be said that everyone is a thief and is liable to be punished. Punishment by the laws of nature takes place in the cycle of birth and death. No one dies fully satisfied by the fulfillment of material desires, for that is possible. Therefore, at the time of one's death, one is very sorry, being unable to fulfill his desires. By the laws of nature, one is then offered another body to fulfill his unsatisfied desires, and upon taking birth again, accepting another material body, one voluntarily accepts the threefold miseries of life. Mriga is deer, Oshtra is, what do you call it? Camel? Kara is a donkey. I don't know what Marka is. Kaga is also, Kaga Mriga Kula. Kaga is also a deer, isn't it? Sorry, we'll find out. Mrigoshtra Kara Markaku Sarip Srip, I think that's snake. Kagamakshika, is that bumblebee? No, I don't know what that is. Atmana putravat pashyat taresham antaram kiyat. One should treat animals such as deer, camels, asses, monkeys. What's monkeys? Oh, kaga. Of course, kaga is birds. The kaga mrigokula malaya matasha. Marka is monkeys. Oh yeah, Markata Vairagya means monkey renunciation. And Aku is mice. Never heard Aku before. Oh yeah, and Makshika should be, yeah. Anyways, sorry guys. Monkeys, mice, snakes, and birds and flies. Sorry. One should treat all animals exactly like one's own son. How little difference there actually is between children and these innocent animals. Ah, that's a nice verse. We should treat the flies and birds and the snakes like our own children, the mice. Purport. I'm going to start treating all of the rats like children now. Purport. One who is in Krishna consciousness understands that there is no difference between the animals and the innocent children in one's home. Even in ordinary life, it is our practical experience that a household dog or cat is regarded at the same level as one's own children, without any envy. Like children, intelligent animals are also sons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Krishna-conscious person, even though a householder, should not discriminate between child and poor animals. Unfortunately, modern society has devised many means for killing animals in different forms of life. For example, in the agricultural fields, there may be many mice, flies, and other creatures that disturb production, and sometimes they are killed by pesticides. In this verse, however, such killing is forbidden. Every living entity should be nourished by the food given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Human society should not consider itself the only enjoyer for all the properties of God. Rather, men should understand that all the other animals also have a claim to God's property. In this verse, even the snake is mentioned, indicating that a householder should not be envious even of a snake. If everyone is fully satisfied by eating food that is a gift from the Lord, why should there be envy between one living being and another? In modern days, people are very much inclined toward communistic ideas of society. But we do not think that there can be any better communistic idea than that which is explained in this verse of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Even in the communistic countries, the poor animals are killed without consideration, although they also should have the rights to take their allotted food with which to live. Trivargam natikritrena bhajita gṛhamedhapi yatha desham yatha kalam yavad daivopapadhitam. Even if one is a householder rather than a brahmachari, or a sannyasi or a vanaprastha, One should not endeavor very hard for religiosity, economic development, or satisfaction of the senses. Even in householder life, one should be satisfied to maintain body and soul together with whatever is available with minimum endeavor, according to place and time, by the grace of the Lord. One should not engage oneself in ugra karma. Purport. In human life, there are four principles to be fulfilled: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Religion, development, sense gratification, and liberation. First, one should be religious, observing various rules and regulations. And then, one must earn some money for maintenance of his family and the satisfaction of his senses. The most important ceremony for sense gratification is marriage, because sex is one of the principal necessities of the material body. Yan maitunadi gṛhāmedi sukham hitucham. Although sexual intercourse is not a very exalted requisite in life, both require some sense gratification because of material propensities. One should be satisfied with married life and not expend energy for extra sense gratification or sex life. As for economic development, the responsibility for this should be entrusted mainly to the Vaishyas and gṛhasthas. Human society should be divided into varnas and ashrams: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, gṛhastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. Economic development is necessary for gṛhasthas. Brahman gṛhasthas should be satisfied with a life of adhyayan, or adhyapan, yajana, and yajana, being learned scholars, teaching others to be scholars, learning how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, and also teaching others how to worship Lord Vishnu, or even the demigods. A Brahman should do this without remuneration, but he is allowed to accept charity from a person whom he teaches how to be a human being. As for the Kshatriyas, they are supposed to be the kings of the land, and the land should be distributed to the Vaishyas for agricultural activities, cow protection, and trade. Shudras must work. Sometimes they should engage in occupational duties as cloth manufacturers, weavers, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, brass, and so on, or else they should engage in hard labor to produce food grains. These are the different occupational duties by which men should earn their livelihood, and in this way, human society should be simple. At the present moment, however, everyone is engaged in technological advancement, which is described in Bhagavad Gita as ugra karma, extremely severe endeavor. This ugra karma is the cause of agitation within the human mind. Men are engaging in many sinful activities and becoming degraded by opening slaughterhouses, breweries, and cigarette factories, as well as nightclubs and other establishments for sense enjoyment. In this way, they are spoiling their lives. In all of these activities, of course, householders are involved, and they're advised here, with the use of the word api, that even though one is a householder, one should not engage himself in severe hardships. One's means of livelihood should be extremely simple. As for those who are not gṛhasthas, the brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, they don't have to do anything but strive for advancement in spiritual life. This means that three-fourths of the entire population should stop sense gratification and simply be engaged in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Only 1/4 of the population should be gṛhastha, and that should be according to the laws of restricted sense gratification. Only 1/4 of the population should be gṛhastha? Wow! The gṛhasthas, vanaprasthas, brahmacharis, and sannyasis should endeavor together with their total energy to become Krishna conscious. This type of civilization is called Daiva Varnashram. One of the objectives of the Krishna consciousness movement is to establish this Daiva Varnashram, but not encourage so-called Varnashram without scientifically organized endeavor by human society. Okay, we have 4 more minutes. Ashvaghante vasayebhya kam savi bhajedyatha apyakam atmano dharam nrinam svatva graho yata. Dogs, fallen persons, and untouchables, including chandalas, dog eaters, should all be maintained with their proper necessities, which should be contributed by the householders. Dogs, fallen persons, and untouchables should all be maintained by householders. Even one's wife at home, with whom one is most intimately attached, should be offered for the reception of guests and people in general. Purport. Although in modern society the dog is accepted as part of one's household paraphernalia, in the Vedic system of household life, the dog is untouchable. As mentioned here, a dog may be maintained with proper food, but it cannot be allowed to enter one's house, what to speak of the bedroom. Outcasts or untouchable chandalas should also be provided with the necessities for life. The word used in this connection is yatha, which means as much as deserved. The outcasts should not be given money with which to indulge in more than they need, for otherwise they will misuse it. At the present moment, for example, low-class men are generally paid quite amply, but instead of using their money to cultivate knowledge and advance in life, such low-class men use their extra money for wine drinking and similar sinful activities. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. There must be 4 divisions of human society according to the work and qualities of men. Men with the lowest qualities cannot do any work that requires higher intelligence. However, although such a division of men must exist according to their quality and work, it is suggested herewith that everyone must have the necessities of life. The communists of the present day are in favor of supplying the necessities of life to everyone, but they consider only the human beings and not the lower animals. The Bhagavatam's principles are so broad, however, it recommends that the necessities of life be supplied to everyone, man or animal, regardless of good or bad qualities. The idea of giving even one's wife to the service of the public is that one's intimate relationship with his wife, or one's excessive attachment for his wife, by which one thinks his wife to be his better half or to be identical with himself, must gradually be given up. As formerly suggested, the idea of ownership, even of one's family, must be abandoned. The dream of materialistic life is the cause of bondage in the cycle of birth and death, and therefore, one should give up this dream. Consequently, in the human form of life, one's attachment for his wife should be given up, as suggested herein. Alright. Shall we just read one more purport? There's 1 minute left. Jahyadyad artesan pranan hanyadva pitaram gurum tasyam svatvam striyam jahyad yastena hyajito jita. One so seriously considers one's wife to be his own. One so seriously considers one's wife to be his own that he sometimes kills himself, or for her, kills others, including even his parents or his spiritual master or teacher. Dang. Therefore, if one can give up his attachment to such a wife, he conquers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never conquered by anyone. Purport. Every husband is too much attached to his wife. Therefore, to give up one's connection with his wife is extremely difficult. But if one can somehow or other give it up for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the Lord himself, although not able to be conquered by anyone, comes very much under the control of the devotee. And if the Lord is pleased with the devotee, what is there that is unobtainable? Why should one not give up his affection for his wife and children and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Where is the loss of anything material? Householder life means attachment for one's wife, whereas sannyas means detachment from one's wife and attachment to Krishna. Oh, this verse is... Let me just go like 2 minutes over time. I hope you don't mind. This verse is kind of fun. That's why I wanted to finish with it. Krimi vid bhasma nishtantam kvedam tucham kalevaram kva tadiya ratir bharya kvayam atma nabhashchadi. Through proper deliberation, one should give up attraction to his wife's body, because that body will ultimately be transformed into small insects, into stool, or into ashes. I guess if you bury your wife, then it'll turn into insects. Right? stool. How would it turn into stool? Anyways, or if you cremate her, she'll become ashes. What is the value of this insignificant body? How much greater is the Supreme Being who is all-pervading like the sky? Purport. Sorry. Here also, the same point is stressed. One should give up attachment for his wife, or in other words, for sex life. If one is intelligent, he can think of his wife's body as nothing but a lump of matter that will ultimately be transformed into small insects, stool, or ashes. In different societies, there are different ways of dealing with the human body at the time of the funeral ceremony. In some societies, the body is given to vultures to be eaten, and therefore the body ultimately turns into vulture stool. Sometimes the body is merely abandoned, and in that case, the body is consumed by small insects. In some societies, the body is immediately burned after death, and thus it becomes ashes. In any case, if one intelligently considers the constitution of the body and the soul beyond it, what is the value of the body? Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirina. The body may perish at any moment, but the soul is eternal. If one gives up attachment for the body and increases his attachment for the spirit soul, his life is successful. It is merely a matter of deliberation. All right. And next, well, an intelligent person should be satisfied with eating prasad. All right, we'll continue. There's just a few more verses about... Let me just see the book. So we finished with 13. And then one must be satisfied with eating prasad. One should worship the demigods, humans, sages, forefathers, living entities, and one's own self, by wealth acquired from that. And then when one has wealth for gathering all items, one must perform sacrifice according to Shastric rules. Although the Supreme Lord enjoys offerings in the sacrificial fire, he is more satisfied when nice food is offered to him through the mouths of Brahmins. Vipramka. Therefore, one must offer prasad unto the Brahmins and the demigods, and then distribute prasad to other living entities. Okay, so I'll read that tomorrow, and the times and places suitable for religious activities, and the importance of worshipping Krishna, his deity, and the Brahmins. That's the end of that chapter. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Varanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shila Gurudev Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Varanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Varanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Maha Bhagavat Srila Gorkishora Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय. श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जाय. सार्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जाय. श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जाय. श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जाय. श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जाय. श्री भक्ति देवी की जाय. श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जाय. श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जाय. श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जाय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय. श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवाश्च कृष्ण भक्ति पददेवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः. पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. धन्यवाद. प्रणाम. Pradyumna Prabhu, is it okay to sing Hindi bhajans on Bhagavatam? Sure, why not? I don't know. I don't know any Hindi bhajans about the Bhagavatam. And I just don't know. I don't know what to say. It's all bona fide and it's written by somebody who's not like totally weird. And I don't know about the Babaji statuses of some of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's disciples. Like Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, there's a book written about him recently. I've never read it. Just looking at the comments. Rup Manjari. My paternal grandfather sponsored Bhagavatam classes in his week several days a week. And he said he didn't want his widowed aunts and sisters and his wife coming home so late from a distant Bhagavatam reading in another part of town. But apparently he wanted an excuse to get a refugee pundit to do the reading. Interesting. Oh, really? 1/4 of the male population is married, huh? That's interesting. Yeah, Krishna does have 2 pet dogs, doesn't he? What are their names? Does it start with a Ka? Can't remember. I remember reading about it though. Is it in Radhakrishna Kandesh Dipika? Oh yeah, worms. Yep. The insects that eat the body and worms too. That's interesting. The Zoroastrians, they feed their dead to vultures on towers. That is very neat. I'm gonna have to look more into that. It's kind of horrible, actually. But interesting, very interesting. Yeah. What is it? The Zoroastrians do not allow cremation due to the fact that they are. Huh. All right, everybody. Oh, that's one of the Krishna's dogs? Viagra? Vyagra. Okay. Vyagra and Brahmaraka. Okay, those are Krishna's 2 dogs. Vyagra and Brahmaraka. Vyagra means tiger, doesn't it? I'm pretty sure Vyagra means tiger. And that's interesting. Krishna calls one of his dogs tiger. And what's Brahmaraka? I don't know what Brahmaraka means. That's interesting though. All right, everybody. That was kind of a fun reading today. See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. People do name their dogs Tiger. Okay, cool. All right. Jai Shri Radhe. See you all tomorrow, everybody. Hari Bol. Thank you for joining me. Dandavat Pranams to everybody.